Hey everybody, welcome back to another video of Helmets of the World. I'm Mike B, and today we're going to be taking a look at the British World War II Mark IV turtle shell helmet. As you can kind of see from the side, you see where it gets its name. So this started kind of entering the production slash testing phase in like 1941. The British were using the Mark II, which was an updated version of the Mark I, oddly enough. Anyway, the old Tommy hat or the pie plate or whatever you call it, old school helmet that you think of when you think of World War II and World War I British. And they started trying to come up with a new design that was going to mimic something like the M1 or the Stahlhelm or the Italian M33 or the Russian helmets, which are kind of more of a round shape than they are like the tin hat style Brody helmet shape. So these were actually implemented as the Mark III helmet in 1944 and were first used on the infamous June 6, 1944 D-Day landings in Normandy by both British and Canadian forces. I'm not sure about Australian forces, to tell you the truth. I don't know if they used these then. I know they were using these later on in the South Pacific, but I didn't know if it was around that point. So anyway, so you can see that this is also from a medieval helmet design, the Sallet or Sallet, S-A-L-L-E-T helmet. We've kind of got the head shape here, and it goes back to cover up the neck. It's an ugly looking helmet. I mean, that's my opinion. You might think it's a little bit better, but I've always thought British helmets from here onto the modern one were pretty hideous, but they do their job. I'll go out and ballistically test one of these eventually. Oh God, running a piece of history. Yeah, I know. I got some that are pretty in bad shape, so it won't be that bad as far as historical standpoint is concerned, but I digress. So anyway, you see this is made out of a typical, I think it's like a 18 to 20 gauge steel, just like the Mark II helmets. You got this khaki canvas, pretty heavy duty chin strap. This one was actually worn up like this when I got it, so I have the number 8 on it for whatever reason. A lot of these, I don't know if they were actually issued with the nets, but this one definitely had the nets. I think these were put on at like the company or platoon level. Netting put on this thing. This is a green net. They were green and kind of khaki. This is still retaining the original like pre-1950s kind of like dark olive drab color. And try to get up, not the net, I'm talking about the paint. You can see that it's not black. After about 1950 and 51, it seems that most of the Mark III and Mark IV shells are painted black. Oh, I mentioned the Mark III because I've mentioned the Mark II and the Mark IV. Hopefully I can get one of those at a later date, but the difference between the Mark III and this beast is simply the way the liner attaches to the shell. So you can see that this has a lift the dot, kind of, I'll try to not kill you with the shadows. It says right down there, lift the dot. Thing where you literally just pull like a tab right there on the liner, pull that up, and then this whole liner will come right out. What happened was on the Mark III shells, which were identical in pretty much every respect, were designed for the Brits to take their liners, which is exactly like this, out of the Mark II shells via the screw and the washer and all that stuff, and then just put them into these shells. That's a rumor. I don't know if it's been confirmed by any credible sources, but it was rumored that the Mark III shells were issued without liners, and the Brits were supposed to, shit can the liners from their Mark IIs and put it in the Mark IIIs. When the Mark IV came out in late 1944 and 45, they just designed this liner system, and this is how it remained until the Mark V was introduced later. But these were also used up until the 80s as well in conjunction with the Mark V. So you can see the liner systems. It's this uncomfortable, like, oilcloth kind of crap that they've been using since the First World War. You know, like kind of a rubber foamish donut, or not donut, but like kind of like a donut pad. Like that's where it would be. And that's just kind of a like shock absorption or whatever. But apparently a lot of British soldiers, when these were still soft, this one that I have here is from 1953, as you can see right there. So the liner's probably a post replacement because this is a World War II shell, but again, made it really easy to replace the liners. So 1953, so this is pretty hard, but I heard from a lot of British soldiers that wore these up until about 1984 when they stopped producing these and they were replaced by the Mark VI ballistic nylon helmet. I heard that the little post right here on the lift the dot thing would actually dig into their head, and they really didn't like it and thought they were uncomfortable. So I see a lot of these guys wearing these really high up on their heads. It seems British soldiers always seem to be wearing them high up. It's probably because their liner designs were pretty shitty, in my opinion, up until the Mark V and the Mark VI. So all the way from the Mark I through the Mark IV, you've got really kind of uncomfortable, rudimentary, disgusting liners, and then you guys really up your game with the Mark V, which is just like pretty much a big foam pad in the same shell as this. But someday I'll get one of those. Those are really cool. So pretty much these were used from mid 1944 all the way through 1984. The Mark III and Mark IV specifically were used or the Mark III was used on D-Day, and then pretty much from, I think it's either December of 44 or January of 45, the Mark IV, which is what you're looking at, started production. So anyway, the Mark III came out first, and they figured out that, yeah, it's a different liner system. So pretty neat. The shell itself is going to have that post on it sticking out. That's how you can tell a Mark III from a Mark IV if you look at the inside and they don't have a liner. The Mark III will just have a hole in the top for the screw to go through. And I'll try putting this baby back up on the little stand here. So, yeah, that's how you can tell the difference between a Mark III and a Mark IV. Mark III through 5 shells are all essentially like aesthetically the same. And that's pretty interesting. I don't know how good of a design this is because I haven't ballistically tested it. Obviously, the Brits used it from 44 to 84, so it's 40 years of service. It's giving the M1 a run for its money, and the Italian M33. These things are really cool. They're not totally rare in the U.S. yet, but they're getting rather uncommon. At the time of me making this video, I've actually got some that'll be posting up on my website at mikesmilitaria.com. So you can actually get one. Most of the ones I have are painted black, and they don't have the netting on them and stuff. But they're still a really cool helmet to have in your collection. I'd advise getting one before they dry up completely. No reason to panic, but they're starting to get fewer and far between. You know, it's been 30 plus years since we've had to, or they've made these and they've had to use them. So that in mind, hope you learned something. I really like this design. It's just unique and ugly. Not one of my top favorites, but again, I like all helmets. So this one's pretty interesting. Let me know what you think. Go on to either become a supporter on Patreon. Click on the link in the description. For $1 a month, it gets you in, and we can talk on there. Let me know what you think about the British Mark IV helmet. And if you don't want to go on there or whatever and become a supporter of the channel, that's fine too. And you can just go to my Facebook page and tell me what you think about the old British Mark IV helmet there. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll be trying to make more coming up here in the future. The weather's been sucking and my life's been really busy lately. So I know I've been lacking you guys, and I'm really sorry about that. I promise you, stay tuned, and I'll be making more cool videos. So, all right. Hope you like this. Hope you learned something. And yeah, go ahead and get yourself one of these. They're really cool to have in the collection from a really nice World Power that used these for 40 years. It's pretty insane. A lot of history, a lot of cool stuff. So I'll wrap the video up. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you on the next video. Make sure you subscribe.